Hello everybody, my name is Marsh, and today this is my review of Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Let's jump into it. So to start out this video, this is going to be a spoiler-free review. If I do plan on going into any spoilers, I will give you warning on that, and if I do end up doing that, it will be towards the end of the video as well, not the beginning. Now in regards to PC port issues, everyone's talked about that to ad nauseum, and so I don't need to go into detail on what's wrong with that. My quick gist about it is that it was honestly expected because the previous game ran like crap on my PC that I had before. I did not expect this one to run well, therefore I got it for PS5. I didn't really have issues when I was playing it, therefore I can't really talk on it, but I don't find it tolerable or a good thing that it's having issues. And so if you're a PC only person, I will recommend that you actually wait to get the game until it's either fixed or it's on sale. If you're on PS5 or Xbox One, I think it's totally fine to get the game if you want to play it. That being said, let's go ahead and jump into the review. And if you end up enjoying the review, feel free to leave a like and subscribe because that would be greatly appreciated. So, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I want to start out by talking about how I felt about the previous game, what I was expecting going into this one. Then I'll jump into how I felt about the story, the gameplay, and my overall enjoyment, pros and cons. So let's go ahead and talk about the previous game a little bit. If you guys want to skip forward, feel free to, but it's going to be quick. So the original game, Jedi Fallen Order, I found was a fun game, but it was lacking in certain aspects. Now, this is coming from a standpoint of someone who enjoyed a game such as The Force Unleashed, for example. And Force Unleashed is actually one of my favorite childhood games that I played. That is more of a power fantasy game in terms of it's about the gameplay, where Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was more of a story-based game. And so a lot of the gripes I have with Jedi Fallen Order were mostly in regards to gameplay, or customization was a huge one. Because the lack of customization in the original game was something that I just didn't quite understand, to be honest with you. When you look at a prior game such as Force Unleashed, I know it's not the same studio, but you look at the customization they had in that game versus a game that came out brand new. Just the fact that all I can do is change poncho colors is like pretty bare bones. I know you could change how the lightsaber looks and things like that, but I felt like they could have gone more in depth. And so that was one of the main things I wanted going into the new game, was them to improve the customization. Second thing was gameplay. The gameplay was good, but I wanted them to make it more in depth, work on the hitboxes. There's a lot of cheesy moments where if you get struck by like one force push, you fall into like a loop of constant like getting hit over and over and you can't get out of it. That's still kind of an issue in the new game, but not really something I wanted to totally harp on. But I wanted them to just improve everything overall with the gameplay, get it better, more fluid, better hitbox, and less moments where you feel like the game is screwing you over versus your own skill. Now, in terms of story of the original, I enjoyed the story. It was good. I don't think it was anything profound or necessarily special, but it was better than a majority of the things we're getting in regards to Star Wars recently. And so I have not insanely high expectations going into this one, but decently high expectations. And lastly, I did not watch any trailers prior to this outside of the cinematic that was originally released for this game. I didn't want to go in with any spoilers or thoughts or notions of what to expect when coming in. I wanted it to all just come to me and be a surprise. So that's where I'm coming from. Let's go ahead and jump into it. On the first avenue of story with Jedi Survivor, I think that's actually the best aspect of the game and what they did the best. Now, I will say there is certain factors or certain things that some may find predictable. The so-called twist of the game, I predicted from basically the first 5 minutes of the actual start of the game. Basically, the moment a certain thing was introduced to me, I predicted what the twist was going to be in the game. And after the twist is where I have more issues with the story, only partly. But overall, the story is great. The characters are great. The new characters introduced are good for the most part. The new villains I find are more interesting outside of the point where they just kind of stuck a little bit too long. I actually think the secondary boss is more interesting than the actual boss in the game. And I can't really say who or what that is because I don't want to get into spoilers. But I'll say the right-hand man of one of the bosses I find more interesting as a character than the actual boss that is laid out to us in terms of enemies. That's all I'll say for that. But it's good development for the character. We see Cal grow and develop. And since the first game, it's been a few years, everyone's separated. So you gotta build the crew again, bring everyone back together. You see that camaraderie build up, and the emotions and everything that everyone has for each other is still there and present. And they're all happy to be together and be with each other. And so it's nice when you get certain moments in the story where you get to reflect and get payoff for character development in the prior game. That's something I think they did very well, was the payoff from previous games to this story now. And this story overall is, I'd say, significantly better than the original, to be honest. And so if you enjoyed the original story, I think you'll enjoy this one even more. And I actually enjoyed the enemies a lot more in this as well. It is less Empire focused, which I actually thought was a good choice. And I'm not going to mention what it's focused on in terms of the enemy, but it's fun and nostalgic seeing the enemies that you're fighting, and also the part that's not nostalgic because you may have not seen it before is also interesting and good for future lore in terms of the Star Wars universe. And I'm interested to see where they bring it with the third game, because obviously there's going to be a trilogy, and I think I know what's going to happen with that, but I'll talk about that later. Now, in terms of cons with the story, all that's really there is what I mentioned before, kind of the predictability with the twist, if you saw that. And then after the twist happens, there's sort of a point where the story takes a certain route, and there's certain decisions I don't necessarily agree with in terms of the character, but that's honestly just more of a personal grievance and how they handled certain things, but it's not a negative. Okay, let's get into the next aspect, gameplay. Now, the overall gameplay is still the same in terms of how the game works, what you can do, but they added to it and they built it and they helped bring more depth to it. They added new abilities, new stances. You have a total of 5 lightsaber stances now instead of the 3 that there was in the original game. Now, I still stuck with the double-bladed in the original because that's my favorite one. That's one I felt most competent with when using, but I did end up beating the game with one of the new stances because I felt it was better for the final antagonist that we were fighting. With all that being said, it brings a lot of depth and uniqueness with what they did. There's more force powers that you can use. The better part that I found more interesting was the force ability. So when you press both sticks together and you can slow down time, they added new force abilities such as that, and they let you improve upon it in certain ways that I find interesting, especially in terms of story. Now, to the next aspect, customization. They did heavily improve on customization in this game. Is it still where I wanted it to be? No. I'm sort of a freak when it comes to customization, and I want an insane amount. I grew up on Halo Reach, which lets you do whatever you want with Master Chief, and so I'm expecting me to be able to customize every little piece, every color, and they did a lot. You could do texture, color, they have different outfits. One thing I wish they had more, which maybe it's in New Game Plus because I haven't played New Game Plus, is special outfits. So if I want to dress up as Starkiller, Darth Vader, something of that sort, I think we need more fun special outfits brought into the game. That's one of my gripes. Let me do these skins that are fun, and obviously they don't hurt the game in any way. I wonder if part of that is them doing their mocap. I mean, you could always have him take off the helmet or whatever he's wearing during the scenes, so I don't think it affects it that much, but it's not really a real con. It's just me nitpicking. And for the end of the spoiler-free section, what I just want to say is I think if you enjoyed the first game and you've played it, you'll enjoy this game as well. If you're not on a PC, go ahead, go out and buy the game, play it. It's worthy. It's a good sequel. It improves upon every aspect of the first game, and it's building up to a good third game as well, because I believe they want it to be a trilogy. That being said, let's go ahead and jump into spoilers. So this is your warning now. Yeah, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, spoilers. Going into the story. Now, the twist I'm mentioning that was predictable, that was with Bode. The moment I saw Bode, I already knew he was going to betray us. The The dead giveaway, per se, was when he started talking about how much he cares about his daughter and he'll do anything to protect his daughter. I was like, okay, he's going to betray us for the Empire. No, they did give me, I didn't know he was going to be a Jedi, or Sith in this case, but I did predict that he was going to betray us, though, so that was predictable. And in terms of the antagonists prior to him, Dagan and Ravis, so that I found that Ravis was a more interesting character once we got his background story than actually Dagan was, in my opinion, because Ravis was like tortured and imprisoned basically for hundreds and hundreds of years, and until Order 66, that's when he ended up getting released because the Republic fell. And like the whole idea of his character being able to regrow your limbs, he can't really die to Jedis that easily, and he just wants to die like a warrior's death. I found he was more sympathetic than Dagan himself. Dagan I had some sympathy for, and I thought he was the better villain at first, until it got to be too much. He started turning like into an Anakin, like, and I don't have a problem with Anakin. I like Anakin, but it was sort of like, oh, it kept reminding me of like Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith, where he's just like talking to Obi-Wan. He's like, you did this for the Empire, the Republic lied to me, and all that stuff. And he's just being like a baby, and he kept repeating his stuff. It's like, dude, come on. Like, can't you see the Republic's dead? Why do you have a vendetta on Jedi when the Jedi are literally like not there at all? And you don't care about the Sith. I just didn't understand that. I was hoping he was going to be more gray of a villain, like a more morally gray villain, and maybe at one point even fight the Empire and only worry about bringing back like the High Republic or something like that for himself. I was hoping there was going to be more depth with that, and there wasn't. So I was just kind of like sad that they brought him into like the same Anakin trope basically of turning into a Sith, and they just kept repeating those points. It was good to an extent, but it got a little bit too much, so I'm glad we killed him when we did and took care of that. And then one part I really loved was the part with Seer. So we got the fun battle with Darth Vader, but the overall emotional level of when Bode betrays us and Sarah is just defending the temple to her last breath until she dies, and then Cal has to come and take care of her and save her. That was probably the most emotionally impactful part of the game for me. Now, there was the parts with like Marin where Cal is finally with Marin. Those were cool. They weren't emotionally impactful per se for me, but I enjoyed those a lot with their development as a couple and having a payoff from prior games with the development of the characters. It's just a good arc and it makes sense. And it also makes sense for Cal's character, which I think they did good with, because this is his story about fighting the dark side, going between light and dark, and how he deals with that. And when you look at him as a character, it's nice knowing that we finally have our first gray Jedi. And now, I'm not a lore expert. I know gray Jedis are sort of in between. That's the way I sort of view Cal, because he's willing to use the dark in pursuit of the light, or to defend the light for things that are good, but he's not going to give up everything to be a Jedi per se. He's not going to drop his love for Marin, and he's not going to necessarily not kill someone, as we see with Ravis, Dagan, and at the end Bode. So having him embrace the darkness but still be able to go back to the light and hold that gray Jedi standpoint where he's back and forth is a good thing, I think, for the game. And I'm interested to see where it goes in the second game. But I feel like, or in the third game, I mean, but I feel like they're sort of going to focus on Bode's daughter more in the third game. Now, let's get to Bode's character. The problem I had with Bode, one, I predicted what he was going to do right away, so I never trusted him and wouldn't let myself get attached to him. And I felt like they were trying to get us connected too quickly anyways with the sob story about his daughter and stuff like that. I feel like they should have brought it in at a later point to build it up more, instead of like immediately the moment you meet this person, he's already talking about he'll do anything to protect his daughter, like he's Anakin protecting Padme or something. But that was fine. Parts I didn't enjoy were later in the game where he started hurting his own daughter. And not that I didn't enjoy it, I thought it was justifiable, the things that were happening with Bode and how he was acting, but it's more with the daughter that I have issue. The daughter was protecting him. Cal is too good of a person to kill him in front of the daughter. And when it finally happens, it's like, I just don't know where you stand on that. If your parents were murderers, are you fine with them being murdered? And do you understand that they're a bad person? It's more of a question philosophically, I think, with the daughter that I have, is how is the daughter going to internalize that and deal with it? And I guess we'll find that out in the next game. I feel like the next game's going to have a time jump, and I wouldn't be surprised if we play as both the daughter and Cal, because I feel like the daughter, it's obvious that she's going to be a Jedi as well. Cal as her master, and Marin obviously there. It's like the adopted found family trope, which I think they did well. And I can't believe I didn't mention Grease. You gotta love Grease. But it's more, like I mentioned prior, it's more philosophically with the daughter and the father, how they're handling that. Because obviously he loves his daughter, and she knows that too. But is she old enough to understand what's happening and to mentally take it in, I guess is what I'm saying. Does she understand that her father is a bad person, not because, or turned into a bad person trying to protect his family, and that it's justifiable that he was killed? Because I could already see in the sequel, she's going to be contemplating that. She may go towards the dark side and be like, you killed my family, blah, blah, blah. And I can see where it's coming. So we'll have to see how they deal with that. But overall, I enjoyed the game thoroughly. It's definitely an improvement. I like it better than the first game. And I'm excited to see what they do with the next game, if they keep improving upon it. Obviously, it was sad that the PC port wasn't good, but I'm not going to harp on that because I'm just talking about the game for what it is. But I definitely enjoyed it. And it's not my game of the year. That's still Resident Evil 4 and hopefully Final Fantasy when that comes up, or it might be Legend of Zelda. But it was definitely an enjoyment and a good game. Probably my second favorite game of the year behind Resident Evil 4 right now. But did you guys enjoy the game? What did you think about it? How'd you feel about the first game as well? Give me all your thoughts and comments down below. Other than that though, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.